for the 172nd commencement ceremony of the City College of New York as we celebrate the commencement exercises. With your permission, Dr. Boudreau, the ceremony will begin.
Let the ceremonies begin.
All please rise as the color guard of the City University Army ROTC program presents the national colors as the national anthem is sung by Tamara Valderrama with Professor Mike Holliber on the piano. The national anthem will be sung after the students have entered.
Now it is my pleasure to introduce the class of 2025. They will begin their march behind you and march to your right. As they come to the stage and cross over, you will be able to see them on the big screens and cheer them on as we start this celebration of the graduates. They will be led by Provost Tony Liss. He will be followed by Ayla Chowdhury, President of Undergraduate Student Council, Bianca Jones, Graduate Student Council Executive Chair, and Sonia Utep, Graduate Student Council Executive Vice Chair, flank the banner of the Class of 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, you can take a seat as our academic procession begins with the graduates from the CUNY School of Medicine, led by Dr. Danielle Pritchett, Associate Dean, They're followed by the graduates from the Sophie Davis Biomedical Education Program.
Clementina Sarpong. Alicia Gregory. Kayla Hart. Lucas Chavez. Nawang Lama. Avina Smith. Brian Kanyinda. Valentina Castano. Tonya Ann Benjamin. Alexandra Selena Huaman. Madison Edwards. Daniel Ugoo Menyukawa. Karina Pan. Natalie Lilo. Feel free to cheer, everyone. John Barroso. Alphonse Raffaello Sinlao. Daniel Pereira. Elijah Terrell Mike. Jade Amador. Zakina Fraser.
Alana John.
Kalia Fernandez. Laura Emilcar. Brooke Fernandez. Myrna Shodi. Maya Gomez Gribben. Jubilee Griffith. Nicole Benabitzi. Stephanie Toussaint. Jacqueline Mehta. Mohani Adum. Olivia Yeroshalmi. Tallulah Lawal. Tallulah Pay Lawal. Excuse me. Abina Opoku Mensa. Sri Lakshmi Nair. Dalila Grant. Sophia Jaquez. Abiola Laguda. Malik Hyman. Amy Thomas. Heather Bonilla. Iris Lamb. Daniel German. Matthew Babayev. Kanwalpreet Kaur. Julia Panko. Abanoob Shihata. Stephen Shafiq. Tamana Hossein. Avni Garg. David Hanna.
Hang Vu.
Basima Rucker. What? Okay. Gizme Derya Demir. Jonah Huang. Sarah Vincent. Christina Kwoku. No. Brandon Tejada. Kidus Yibas. Janice Riteshwar. Promi Chakraborty. Tochi Ukegbu.
Next entering are our PhD graduates, led by Dr. Artie Walzer, Associate Dean of Academic Affairs for Graduate, Undergraduate, and Undergraduate Studies, the Grove School of Engineering, followed by our master's and undergraduate candidates.
Let's just start them,
Okay.
and they'll figure it out.
Gizem Derya Demir. Jonah Wang. Aikut Sayin. Mohammed Falah Rayad. Asier Munoz. Mailen Ugarteburu. Supriya Pundit. Stephanie Mariah Nunez. Basim Berada. Basima Rucker. Hang Ku.
Now entering are students from the Colin Powell School for Civic and Global Leadership, represented by Dr. Andrew Rich, Richard J. Henley, and Susan L. Davis Dean. Colin Powell School valedictorian Eileen Suniga Marquez and salutatorian Andrew Williams flank the banner.
Mohammed N. Hussein.
Sun Woo Kim. Louis Mello. Genesis Santana. Rose Angel Germany Regulio. Enki Teresa Igbini Nakio. Michaela Leandri. Josue Munoz.
Sarah Green.
Crystal Irwin.
Jaylene Diaz.
Julio Carrasco. Kalina Olivia Bent.
Isamara Rodriguez.
Caitlin Schlick.
Cisse Sissoho.
Brittany Candelario. Michael Bernal. He's got that. Vanessa Campos. Hugo Nahera. Natasha DeClaire. Gavindra Tulsi. Kiona Cordero. Deborah Coburn.
Hui Jean.
Sakiba Hassan. Jelani Mendoza. Jadabel Boone. Kayla Marie Rosario Rivera. Sabrina Gonzalez. Zara Aziz. Melissa Vicente. Melissa Ramjeet.
Anna Jelly Vargas.
Timaniri Yabe. Nathaniel Platt. Rochelle Amarie Placencia Vega. Karina Torres. Darshna Baria. Markella Parthensis.
Mohammeduddin.
Emmanuel Curiel.
David Herrera. Naomi Elizabeth Farrington Sanchez.
Marlon Babawe. Rachel Leonardo. Leslie Argueta. Safina Mohammed. Angelina Gomes. Emily Teresa Espinoza. Jasmine Guattaro.
Anushua Paul.
Terry Casillas. Caesar Beato.
Richard Zhao.
Twasin Mazumder. Smarlin Frias. Angie Robinson. Lizette Balbuena Garcia. Adolfo Benzon. Maxwell Murray. Nicholas Persaud. Faizi Yaz Hude. MD Mehraj Hassan. Stephen Supran. Anthony Rita. Brandon Pader. Victor Murashat. Urani Wilkes. Fabio Alcantara. Alcantara, sorry. Chris Knoll. Pamela Bernal Gonzalez. Brandon Aquino. Kevin Pena. Karen Varela. Kingsley Nyarko. Emily Guzman. Isel Rueda Sierra. Ejo Latijo Victoriano. Astrid Moran. Maureen Betty Nelson. Nikolai Richard Drampersold. Maud Ancentiwa York.
Sydney Ogude. Miguel Areas. Alanis Omar. Farhana Mijabin. Kawia Adeshina.
Miriam Mendez.
Ariana Estevez.
Farhan Habib.
Jomene Chiquita. Brianna Davis. Shiana Mojica. Dennis Doney. Diamanta Duverhey. Aiden Klein. Daniel Skripal. Sterling Sosa. Anthony Weber. Daniel Guzman. Avanshika Bujaja. Vidhi Patel. Jeremy Saldana. Marco Torres Eraso.
Diana Arias.
Rose Herrera. Catherine Steele. Ala Saleh. Binta Jara. Akibia Joseph. Jordan Y. Leonard. Colin Fernandez. Majid Katardani. Katardani. Lucy Soriano. Jordan Y. Leonard. Juana Marte. Ramatulai Diara. Wisal Hajazraf. Jasmine Gonzalez. Luis Tolentino. Amy Yefet. Emmett Carey. Iman Aslam. Vanessa Rivas. Ariana Sempuatenka Morales. Michelle Cruz. Nicole Velez.
Henry Shu.
Christian Perez Avila. Usman Shah. Raymond Tecasco Flores. Francisco Pinque. Daisy Puma. Samuel Cartagena. Michelle Fassbinder. Marian Coronel. Eric Martinez. Jennifer Cortez Herrera. David Nickel. Fiona Codling. Astrid Valdez. Marino Jimenez. Lois Jane Amartefio. Stephanie Namias. Elias Ramirez. Brandy Diaz. Sutmaya Tabasum. Mona Al-Audi. Mawada Mohammed. Hanin Faisal Ahmed. Asrar Hassan. Yalexa Flora Familia. Ayman Shamak. Bryant Saldivar. Jamie Leth Chavez. Jessica Coleridge Acosta. Keone Tavares. Donna Coelho. Farhana Nasreen. Amir Dinsir. Cheyenne Osundu.
Caroni Castillo. Celine Mariel Deolio Marquez. Laila Jeremy. Jayada De Silva. Unersi Morel. Oh, are we in the wrong group? Alberita Sijovic.
John Richard Escalar. Angela Pena.
It's okay. Take your time. Take your time. Hang on. I'll get you coming to right. Stay right here. What's your name? Hang on. Stay right there. Nahila Zina?
Nahila Zina.
Mari? Mari. No. Mari?
Mali Morimoto. Andrew Cyprian.
Joshua Mateo. Montserrat Esquivel. Mark Albert Louis Jr. Daniela Nava Hernandez. Kevin Dudnauth. Barry M. Mohammed. June Young Her.
Billy Marie Estrin.
Tenzin Damdul. Marlon Ovaez. Jalisa Jiminian Veras. Hadim Face. Bridget Soto. Ifaz Kurashi. Eva Marie Calzado. MD Zayed Al Farabi Chowdhury. Jesus Jimenez. Christopher Cortez. Angie Santillan. Eric Okapina. Untao Dai. Roxane Acevedo. Celine Nicole Aguirre. Derek Lewis. Alana Alafonso. Daniel Walters. Yafa Al-Masri. Adam J. Rodriguez. Annie Ng. Novel Sarker. Jesus Galan. Emmanuel Limberopoulos. Francis Lusanta. Fernando Treyes. Hussam Mohammed. Fatima Herreros Cruz. Amanda Ferreira. Siobhan Kano. Anna Mia Nagishi. Sarahi Hernandez. Kyung Hwan Cho. Frayilin Huma. Brianna Paulino Toribio. Ismael Morillo. Sally Sela. Johnny Lee. Jared Velasco Misael. Nia Amira Almariles. Edgar Garcia Rodriguez. Jason Villarreal. Victoria Martinez. Angelica Benscome. Carolina Mulokan. Siklali Luna Aguilar. Alberita Sijovic. Unersi Morel. Jayada De Silva. Leila Jeremy. Celine Marielle Diolio Marquez. Caroni Castillo. Isabel Osorio. Fanta Fofana. Ethan Benatar. Ibtisam Fidia. Victor Omilabu. Andrea Iesca. Rocio Stephanie Garcia Martinez. Hudeme Hudam. Isatu Jobata. Maria Dimitrova. Jolie Felix. Marvin DeRosier. Carlo Ortiz. Sharon Gardner. Davy Ortiz Martinez. Jada Taylor Gomez. Domerica Keeler. Kate Sebastian Cecilio. Farhana Sadia. Zunimar Esther Spiat. Jose Figueroa. Leonor Samira. Edicto Rodriguez. Victor Mateo Aguidelo Usma. Christian Rosado. Munel Gambo. Santo Shaira Vargas Medina.
Cheyenne Usandu.
Fatia Kwandil. Barira Gilani. Christian De Jesus. Hita Harish. Alisa Rivera Guerrero. Diliaria Buher. Ajmani Mendez. Julianne Arendel. Teresa Razmin. Sandra Uloko. Miriam George. Karishma Pierre. Fanta Kamara. Isaac Boachi. Bayami Ba. T.C. McLaurin III. Emily Tang. Kayla Austin. Jermaine Atkins. Santiago Vascones. Shafiq Kazi. Katerina Urici. Nigma Idir El-Shibrawi. Samin Zuman. Hasib Patwari.
Esohomewe Patats. Albaan Durgaraj. Alexander Suarez. Grace Atson. Ashley Nicole Olgin Then.
Angela Nimjuku.
Paula Cruz. Ekansa Ganem. Ashley Hilario Gonzalez. Mariam Diallo. Nushrat Bushwea. Naomi Meza Garcia. Tamina Mahmood. Enkeleada Upersa. Fariha Ashraf. Taslima Jahan. Simon Arthur Strauss III. Angelis Rawls. Angelise Rawls. Giancarlos Delgado. Angelica Carmona. Marcela Velecela. Stephanie Theolin. Lisbelkis Aquino Rodriguez. Ivan Romero. Janla Kamora. Susmita Chakraborty. Fabienne Kawesa. Noreen Ahmed. Stacy Abreu. Tarika Timmons. Hawa Balde. Anaya Burnett. Amy Santana. Antoinette Sullivan. Khadija Kone. Aliyah Cherry. Nadani Jawahir. Khadija Diallo. Adonijah Brooks. Ibrahim Adel Agithi. Kelly Rivera. Halima Jangana. Dionedra Rodriguez. Antonios Ishak. Malik Williams Bay. Sebastian Arnu.
Now entering are the students from the Division of the Humanities and the Arts, represented by Dr. Renata Miller, Dean. But stand back. I know this one. Alicia Bardyshevskaya and Leah Mercedes coming in with the dean right now. Woo-hoo. Alisa Bardyshevskaya. Leah Mercedes. Tamara Pilar Valderrama. Pamela Elena Spindel. Adonis Soriano. Corinne Perdomo. Michael Navas. Brendan Davey. Chase Whitmere Johnson. Asante J. Augusto Diaz. Perla J. Peano. Melody Cardona. Juan Diego Vasquez. Kieran Battle. Denari Turner. Carlos Sol Suazo. Vasilis Koutsananos. Denise Rodriguez. Gabriela Florencio. Jillian Springer. Anthony Muchai Muriori. Viridiana Diaz. Valeria Guevara. CJ Case. Jada Ventura. Zakira Mudan. Nichimyo Rich. Brianna Alexandre. Brittany Houston. Akeisha Williams. Danielle Dowrich. Nia Vincent. Or Schifflinger. Asia James. Thelma Sigerhansdottir. Carson Morales. Hillary Ramirez Perez. Daphne Cineas. Angie Vanessa Guzman Diaz. Wilmer Perez. Vivian Paredes. Anais Rosa. Sandra Pagan. Jaden Smith. Daniel Kuasmati. Jareen Hussein. Tasmia Hoke. Gabrielle Aguirre. Griselda Casillas. Kevin Ramirez. Maria Chaname. Shannon Thomas. Justin Friedman. Sarah Pena. Jesus Oliveras. Kiran Sachin Raval. Cindy Jimenez. Marlene Santos de la Rosa. Louis Wright. Samir Maihua. Krista Theodore. Kayla Green. Haley Ayala. Jose Romero Gutierrez. Christian Hudson. Timothy Liu. Stael Luxama. Dylan O'Brien. Alexandra Lacknick. Asatu Kuyata. Nisa Maria Ramawad. Othniel Cassie Jr. Rachel Vargas. Laura Elizabeth Lentz. Exika He Zapata. Nolia Alonso Guzman. Emma Herrera Sosa. Grishel Enerio. Audrey Castro. Leila Iube. Jimmy Aragon. Jessica Toledo. Bianca Garcia Torres. Camila Hernandez Carrasco. Ellie Amber Delgado. Tess Martinez. Jalene Pena. Kimberly Dunbar. George Mocadia. Oscar Navarreto. Marlene Santos. Jenny Huang. Michelle Lin. Jennifer Cregan. Jonathan Horacio Hyman. Amanda Tudy. Chantel Aliza Velez Sepulveda. Zorita Noeme De Jesus. Rezanir Khan Rohan. Akelia Petty. Olivia Samsi. Supriya Beduwal. Ariana Ramos. Gloria Stephanie Duarte. Sybil Owusu. Nayla Afrin. Amari Obe. Plume Lopez. Phoenix Liriano. Samantha Rodriguez. Trent Marcellus Orange. Shaylin Hennessy. George A. Zambrano.
Taya Mystique Manning.
I'll do this one. Kiera Jamie Thornton.
Natasha Santana. Kadijatu Terrera. Infinity Gilliard. Chelsea S. Jones.
Cedric Bradley Abraham.
Fatimata Diop. James De Rosa Farak. Bernard Hawkins. Emily Delormes. Esther Malembe Gadpai. Antonia Martinez Trejo. William Fuentes. Nicholas Galette. Eric Arias. Malik Peterson. Ronald Pokar. Brianna Nicole Inoa. Sean Smith. Tanha Shailene. Nathaniel Arnold. Ahmad Moreira. Raisa Zanat. Caitlin Polanco. Arita Musai. Marmo. Gris Marley Marmo Reyes. Brianna Mulici. Sabrina Sherry. Alicia Khan. Ellen Karunwi. Sebastian Jose Paredes. Javan Lansikut. Lauren Bivens. Ryan Julker.
Elizabeth Reich,
Brittany Brown.
Ella Arnold,
Liliana Franklin. Kevin Montalvio.
Cynthia Olmedo,
Shannon Rowe.
Tahsin Ahmed,
Ariadna Judith Quinones. Paula Oyola Perdomo. Jasmine Garcon. Heidi Z. Ardone. Leandro Hernandez. Sunny Tan. Esther Guin Yu. Jaylene Gordillo. Maylin Lin. Sophia Giselle Enriquez. Madeline Sophia Soto. Gianna Elizabeth Mary Maurer. Danielle Watson. Alex Jasmine Cyan Flythe. Daniel Kokovic. Jesse Aftel. Matthew Davis. Janique Edwards. Alpha Jakite. Leslie Morales. Unshale Nayanese Nelson. Rebecca Wolfgang. Bianca T. Brown. Junhao Chen. Jules Galindo. Tamar Adomashvili. Melanie Roman. Mohammed Omar. Turn it on.
VJ Kamun. Allison Grace Bryan. Sebastian Rodriguez. Max Oric. Noah Lozano. Max Cohn. Anna Banas Reese. Tamel Spence. Elinam Sabethia. Madison McCaskey. Molly Schwartz. Zachary Scholl.
Ahmed El Guindi. Rain Vallow. Matthew Scott Taylor. Nancy Casimiro.
Kevin Shikaiza.
Ella Chen. Fernando Abreu. Derek Cielo. Chloe Wheeler. Naomi Rizzo. Patrick Nicholson. Susana Sangil Milan. Here.
Luke 7.
Christy Lee. Aya Amdallah. Misha Parasios. Gregory Ivanovich McAvoy. Giselle Moran. Bjarni Erlendeson. Juan Marmoljos. De Niro Raynor. Kelsey Pena. Isamar Castro Coelho. Chantel Rodriguez. Maya Bello. Basmala Ziyada.
Ima Amar. Melanie Roman. Tamar Adamashvili. Natalie Basharumi.
That was it.
Kun Park Barney Wong.
Mackenzie Marshall. Cervantes Brassetti. Ramanelli Esther Jerez. Josu Muniz. Hannah Mendoza. Jeannie St. Gerard. Emily Jean-Louis. George Blankson Amisa. Mark Pagubasan. Zura Bartishvili. Iftiza Alam Lenaut. Ariel Deering. Dima Abdallah Amar. Hazel Vasquez. Fatima Sabika. Paula Holguin. Racy Maria Santana Rosario. Daniela Aristizabal Rojas. Ilian Ortiz. Leylin Kamara. Oh. Jetarain Kapayan. Faria Noman. Geronimo Diaz. Devin Gomez. Quentin Jessup. Matthew Rodriguez. Salem Iftikhar. Vincent Tully. Fabian Rodriguez. Let's. Anthony Carthy. Melvin Mofus. Safani Montgomery. Mario Rodriguez. Jiasin Zhao. Justina Williams. Gabriela Bautista. Rosalie Martinez Estrella. Brittany Emily Tusa. Sarah D. Bisram. Jolisa Jones. Micheline Mallard Billy. Princess Asia Knight. Oh, Petaway. Talisha Petaway. Teresa R. Castillo. James Jimenez. Maria Tepan. Matthew Granville. Avogadra Lipson. Madeline Flores. Kayla Chow. Lian Chang. Anissa Sanchez. Tak Nguyen. Taha Aziz. Min Wen. Lila Lopez Estrada. Mobasera Hawk. Danandre Hufansha. Danandre Hufansha. Anna Sedova. Madison Andrews. Yeah, I'll do one more. Alicia Santos Litigua.
Kiara Chanel Phelps. Chidera Reese. Jordan Solomon Henry. Sarina Chitnarain. Jordan Malishi. Gershon Salzberg. Rehan Mohammed. Elias Milan. Jeremiah Santiago. Therapy U. Diva Porboyo. Josana Rout. Diana Jakite. Buthina Ben Abdullah. Jesse Balcabella. Nicole Rosen. Dorothy Olu. Tim Chen. Honor Debiwe. Manuel Del Villar. Brittany Nugent. Brianna Nugent. Brianna Velez. Antonio Yengo. Raymond Bergen. Adrian Wen. Oxway Dioleka. Susan Walker. Oyen Menlual Agnendo. Arian Stinson. Rebecca Vega. Dolly Smith Harding. Alicia Richens.
Natalia Velasio. Ing Roman.
Now entering are students from the Division of Science, represented by Dr. Susan Perkins, Dean. The lead students are Ramela Jaho and Naroz Mahmood.
No, we're good.
There. Okay. Ramala?
We got it.
No, I just wanted.
Ramela Jaho. Naroz Mahmood. Fiana Lorica Garcia Gasapo. Lily Ann Zanithis. Dina Othman. Ruzmila Zaman. Maisha Nawar. Ziad Guda. Claudio Gijon. Naima Rahman. Trevor John Ion. Jeremy Palino. Sapreze Ederson. Alam Nabil Yahya. Diana Rojas. Abigail Jones. Tina Yohanan. Mafuha Chadni. Promi Banik.
Sabrina Isabella Shembri.
Sokna Mabaki. Melanie Atgileru. Aria Masiu. Javin Sultana. Melika Elwadani. Elina Shakur. Aisha Khan. Gursimrun Kaur. Maliha Ahmed. Anika Ahmed. Oren Mishkit. Ulabadeun Heiyan Are. Adama Gay. Solange Lubin. Lisbeth Santos. Devayani Singh. Ivanyichuku Obananya. Victor Pina. Joshua Bourne. Mutasim Siged or Said. Herani Zigei. Jalen Tilmin. Saliha Pepik. Ian Kenny. Umrin Mostafe. Julia Sigmund. Joginder Singh. Shamara Morgan. Manal Erbarhunmi. Kesia Windit. Chisam Unukagu. Denisa Dodani. Sameli Perez. Nadia Nabahi. Maria Jose Buritica Munoz. Sulari Madera. Casey Flores. Solani Marte. Emily Lanfranco. Nadia Ripa. Guan Shigo. Carla Perea Hernandez. Rayan Kabir. Edward Paredes. Abdullah Israr. Malia Morioka. Christopher Kumbe. Nicole Velasquez. Daniel Ortiz. Jeffrey Sellis.
Antonio Oliveira Nurse.
Afsana Abdul Rahim. Marcos Rivera. Amy Lopez Navarro. Dylan Patel.
Doris Lucia Hernandez. Andre Ivkovic.
Scott Langmais. Andres Felipe Sosa. Cindy Gani. Pelagi Noba. Ashanti Nedrick. Natalie Vargas. Laura Villatoro.
Ayesta Khan. Carolina Perez. Kevin Kim. Elijah Doley. Eda Monique Habas. Iris McDaniel. Chunyin Chan. Andrea Rosales. Alina Bilal. Kaylee Sanchez. Diana Mora. Penelope Andrade. Ilana Volvowitz. Anthony Santana. Angel Torres. Jalen Peter Rivera. Enoch Jacquette. Ivan Morozov. Tasnia Mosfik. Ramalio June. Fatima Al-Jammi. Yulia Selovich. Soraya Anissa. Gregory Randazzo. Miriam Faiza. Laura Alcapina. Nushaba Murad. Evangeline Mansebo. Nina Drakulik.
Anthony Tun.
Jamie Paredes. Rachel Nguyen. Afifa Ibnat. Malik Ali. Iloshi Denny. Drexel Lupiano. Mohammed Oguntala. Ibrahim Ali. Rosalio Mendoza. Amirun Mahia. Kaiwen Fan. All right, so is this CWA? This CWA? Okay.
And now entering, represented by Dr. Juan Carlos Mercado, our graduates from the CCNY's downtown campus, the Center for Worker Education, at the Division of Interdisciplinary Studies. Okay. The banner's coming down.
I got also.
Okay.
All right, so it's Okay.
For the first tour. And the lead student.
Karina Smith. Angel Marroquin.
Karina Smith. Angel Marroquin. Jasmine Molette. Ashley S. Guerrero. Nancy Concepcion.
Maritere Altamirano Herrera.
Doris Acevedo. Chelsea Ruiz.
Harpreet Kaur. Jaylee Otero.
Melissa Almazo. Juliana Alves. Ervila. Archita Barat. Doris A. Dixon. Aaron W. Ramsey. Lise Mary Paulino. Hawa Diallo. Berta Jimenez. Desanil L. Rodriguez. Carmen Castillo. Pamela Cornelio. Joshua Delgado. Talia Reyes. Jessica Jimenez. Sibi Kibi. Daisy Rescalvo. Nayelis Torres Liranzo. Sherry Davis. Marcela Nunez. Mariela Ortiz. Deasha M. Fields. Jacqueline Alvarez. Sandra E. Doran Rivera. Marae Kadisha Wilkes. Sumaya Darwish. Fatima Zohara. Sonrisa Rodriguez Harrison. Kazi Hafsa Akhtar. Shahareen Sultana. Ashley Andrea Garcia. Gina Ringston. Stephanie Caesar. Akidra. You have a K. Anidra Ithe. Isaac Radello Freeman. Guadalupe Torres. Jessica Blanco, right. Lucero Saavedra. Ana Sosa Silva. Yaveli Bonifacio. Mariana Hernandez. Marceline Jules. Andres Marmol. Lilibeth Hernandez. Branyi Sosa. Gladys Cohen. Nilda Cruz. Catalina Ventura. Shanice A. Spivey. Jasmine Astreja. Diana Alvarez. Arthur Clark. Vanessa Cano Melo. Elizabeth Flores. Mohammed Foez. Degadira Enriquez. Yes, great. Giselle Hidalgo. Anthony Judy. Andrew Doherty. Estefany Tanari Luciano Medrano. Waleska Ramos Luciano. Tiana Linton. Priscilla Alencar. Catherine Bonilla. Giselle P. Martinez. Marlene Ventura. Annie Silva Austin. Dariana Solorzano. Ana Cano. Melissa Rosario. Adonis Greenberg Rodriguez. Talasha Jackson. Disnaria Mercedes Fernandez. Disneira Mercedes Fernandez. Fatima Cerule Abarca. Elisa Ladani. Skylar Devonish. Rebecca Sukram.
Okay. Now entering our students from the School of Education. They're represented by Dr. Edwin Lamboy, Dean, and the lead students, Arlene Felipe and Miguel Wintz Sanchez, flank the banner. Sure. Yep. Yeah.
I think we're okay for now. Right? You okay?
Yeah. Yay, Mikey. Arlene DeCarmo Felipe. Miguel Wintz Sanchez. Temitope Adenije. Jezebel Mija. Jennifer Mendoza. Rosalane Gavidia. Ragda Abushanab. Aminata Torre. Bianca Costa. Adaina Felipe. Filippo. Elizabeth Hayward. Paula Tiraulo. Julissa Moncada. Gabriela Avila. Patrick C. Kennedy. Dina Sandori Taylor. Jose M. Garcia. Deborah George Hull. Abigail Hanson. Jacqueline Basante. Ferdinand Binoc. Chicodina Duraco. Duracu. Joel Monegro. Shailene Kituisaka. Jamie Lex Dominiquez. Tabata Rosso. Cynthia Soto. Juan Sebastian Amariz Vega. Ashley Acevedo Alcantara. Zipporah Diaz. Ashley Cartagena. Wensu Huang. Yun Zhu. Zonying Jin. Christina Cartagena. Evelyn Diaz. J. Johanna Drung. Ruth Elizabeth Steele Hernandez. Annette Barrett. Cheyenne Jenny Diaz. Shimla Actor. Reem Shala. Christine Sanders. Ruth Benitez. Catherine Salcedo. Yep. Bianca Rios Cisneros. Jorge Alberto Gomez Padilla. Gianmarco Ramirez.
Eduvire de la Rosa.
Carlos Enrique Montoya Salazar. Ramisa Anjum. Amber Taveras. Oh, sorry. Alisa Lopez. Israth Rumon. Brianna Gonzalez. Gladys Maza. Tatiana Kushnarenko. Cheryl Fuller.
Risala Zokari. Jaylene Miranda.
Ariel Brittany Reese. Melissa Gibb. Mawada El Nagar. Fauzia Mazabin. Patricia Cordero Ferrer. Mirella Gilhuli. Ana Jimenez.
Hemwati Mangru.
Shamaya Shane Guab. Tefatu Gay. Arlene Smith Bowen. Brenda Benitez. Stephanie Aragon. Barbara Pacheco. Ni Tete. Jennifer Tebow. Mustafa El Nomani. Helen Patricia Ortiz Mendez. Denise McKeary. Elizabeth Audsuba Cooper. Lenore Murray. Julia Lifton. Maddie Johns. Imani Randall. Ying Hong. John Mummy. Alexandra Rodriguez. Yadira A. Gomez. Stefano Di Lorenzo. Jarvis Hunt. Sean Tierney. Edgar Salazar. Jesse Cascio. Norma Hernandez Morales. Susana Flores. Karen Gonzalez. Luis Lonzano. Sarah Blagerito. Elizabeth Lucero Moran. Eulaine Romero. Wildalis Moreta. Fanny Cerezo. Rangan Gao. Stephanie Valera. Rachel De Leon. Reneliani Urena. Scarlett Rodriguez Santana. Rocio Peña Ruiz. Quinel Acosta. Amanda Kay. Prophet Davison. Jonathan Villalobos. Zhao Zihi. Kiran Kisun. Ezra Yusta. Rafael Cruz. Luis Tavares. Lynette Bernardino. Candy Gonzalez. Haranid Collado. Ruth Esther Sanchez. Lucia Martinez Lopez. Amaris Munoz. Willie Mena. Sasha Ramirez. Brisa Cruz Gonzalez. Marielle Moran. Lisette Ventura. Catherine Quezada. Giovanna Nezevich. Tasfea Rahman. Farana Yasmin. Annalise Vincente. Winifred Estrella. Serena Anderson. Darinel Montero Rodriguez. Clavisa Martini. Stephanie Torres Daniel. Clara Sophie Casedo. Rochelle Laura.
Farhana Yasmin.
Diana Marcela Garcia. Audrey Jones. Magdalena Buldo. Maricar Magno. Hema Walters. Marcelo Almeida, Fanny Tuba, Janelle Key Prudo, Stephen Pineda, Nelsie Altagracia Pina Arias, Cynthia Alvarez, Wendy Gonzalez, Andre Breton, Janelle Rodriguez, Kristen Nappi, Kathleen Scully, Jeffrey Joseph Montero, Jack Daly.
Josias Nunez. Eunice Moronta.
Three more?
Yeah, and my sustainability and architecture will be very short.
Now entering is the Grove School of Engineering. They are represented by Dr. Alex Kouzis, Lee Daniel, and Francis Berg, Professor of Chemical Engineering and Dean. The banner is being brought down by lead students Anna Singh and Benjamin Babayev. He flanks the banner.
Go get some water. Take a break. Good thing is, after these guys, it should be done very soon. Okay, is Alex gonna stay though? He's coming. He's here. Alex, are you gonna shake?
No, he's gonna stay on the hand this way. So wait until your name is being called.
Anna Rebecca Singe.
This way, Anna. This way.
Benjamin Babayev. Dylan Lang. Royash Shretha. Benisha Chaitri. MD Sabir Hossain. ATM Folkrul Hassan. Abir Hossain. Sanjida Hossain. MD Zulkar Naeem. MD Islam. Hani Kaire. Artem Sokol. Aiden Abernathy. Aiden Abernathy. My apologies. Jose Astacio. Besnick Canoli. Robert Brown. Emily Nunez Rodriguez. J.K. Aroni Gungun. Stephanie Avila. Anais Ortega. Braylinson Disage. Disla. Bracelan Disla. Angel Heel. Beauvoir Lubens. Shamsu Zaman. Golem Rabani. David Alejandro Rojas. Surya Marjit. Luis Carrasas. Farhan Sahar. Nimul Hossein. Fabiha H. Nisa. MD Rezwanul Haq. Let me find out. She is. Abina Prehatmachanran Binthu. Valentina Samboni Plaza. Blanche Horbach. Bushra Majed Al-Haj.
Isla Chowdhury.
Rua Abu Al-Ainain. Kayana Anderson. Vanessa Gonzalez. Edith Siret. Mercy Arajesu Dadai. Wael El Taras. Fahud Faruqi. Ishmael Chowdhury. Tanzim Hossein. Ali Mohammed. Brandon Christian Chandra. Thamidu Chowdhury. Rafid Zia. Sajed Athwa. Christina Chen. Sadiq Sabur. Sonan Yamo. Umema Nasim. Muhammad Hasnain Shabir Bojani. Abdul Anda. Ishmam Fardin. Johan Delao. Shihab Mohsin. Henry Frank Suarez Ortega. Mansij Mishra. Bao Huin. Christian Chu Yang. Matthew Ching. Jackie Chen. Mateo Garcia.
Charith Jayasekara.
Shakib Molal. Fardeen Chowdhury. Daniel Nane. Shopnil Rifat. Kwan Hui Yu. Sapsari Naskar. William Ing. Zahin Zaman. Tariq Bairuti. Cody Ampansha Dankur. Dalitso Banda. Abhishek Limbu. Nelson Molina. Miguel Rendon. Raynor Paul Quia. Christopher Colon Espinal. Varin Sao. Vikram Gangaram. Mohammedu Ba. Sidratul Muntaha. Fahim Shanir. Amimul Ornab. Jakaria. Jakaria Hussein. Jakaria Hussein. Mamadou Ba. Daphne Shanir. Corina Singe. Corina Singa. Corina Orellana Soriano. Miguel Rafael Diaz Oraga. Tyler Donahue. Khadija Kasimi. Ayman Radad. Revika Agabana Revika Abagaraval. Matthew Saul. Natalie Peralta.
Jiazhou Zhang.
Miguel Luna. Nur Mazumder. Ayan Das. Matthew Munoz. Matthew Nieves. Jun Hui Hong. Chahua Liang. Johnson Chen. Anova Sakar. Shakir Hossein. Jair Ruiz. Imtiaz Chowdhury. Sokna Jara Jak. Daniel Stellinger. Christopher Francisco Manong. Joseph Castañeda. Sistine Angela Fuego Padon. Sarah Avraham. Mati Gayi. Anthony Lopez. Saifor Rahman. Lester Kuro. Ziyang Guao. Miguel Samuel. Roberto Bardalas. Sylvia Ahmed. Emily Sanchez. Irma Menduyanin. Melissa Builes. Leon Belagu. Joshua Henry. Jolie Huang. Eric Lowe. Kevin Zhang. Yang Hao Lee. Melido Enrique Bello Navarro. Nadia Ben Slima. Dayan Zhao. Minli Liang. Kepan Krishna. Rosa Adhikari. Michael Regdosa. Mario Ortiz. Adrian Criollo. Ahmed El Garabli. Arman Ula. Ilya Avros. Johan S. Santiago. Michael Wang. Olexi Brihadir. Fraylen Miguel Sanchez Hill. Ishwer Sitaldin. Ahmed Tariq. Priscilla Guaman. Ronald Reynold Solnau. Nazarina Sorai Haddad.
Adrian Garcia Perez.
Kevin Ruben Rivadenera Arada.
Mohammed Sultan. David Uso Amen Nuakwa. Joanne Cruz. Maria Centeno. Dayun Park.
Gary W. Lim.
Daniel Santiago. Nazifu Talukder. Bethany J. Charles. Alina Sultanova. Seyu Sibide. Kristen Aloysius. Jaizing Ruan.
Pliner E. Castillo.
Michael Beburiun. Andres Rodriguez. Natalie Thornhill. Abeda Haq. Abubakar Shamsiev. Awais Nayar. Kimberly BTC. Hasib Chowdhury. Animesh Deb. Josh Padrinao. Jasia Meher Chowdhury. Kisholoy Saha. Alhomza Muswara. Tafhim Khan. Melchizedek de Castro. Prithi Shaha. Amir El Sayed. Devin Munoz. Shakibur Rahman. Renato Fernandez. Dishi Dulal. David Valdez. Felix Tavares. Rayon Samuel. Wasuil Islam. Melvin Sierra. Uzman Abbas. Safat E. Munzor. Pritom Faisal. Aisha Siddiqa. Akib Zaman. Ashfaq Ahmed. Muhibur Upu. Ayen Sardar. Farhima Fal. Jean Gabriel Decimus. Liberty Angel Abordo. Baez Perez. Sorry, Brandon Andre Baez Perez. Pablo Armijo. Benjamin Deal. Patrick Kwiatkowski. Taju Kunmar Paul. Kevin Vilon Beloso. Ma Jara Johani. Tony Zheng. Yusufa Cham. Yukesh Guth. Stephen Gerardo Sanchez. Ray Newworth. Javier Tapia. Stephen Paraguachi. Jacob Shrabaman. Fahim Reza. Thomas Steinwagner. Justin Chen. Chengshui Zhu. Janbin Wang. Ayan Kumar Das. Jing Yang. Ikra Zafrin.
Now entering are students from the Sustainability Program. They're
A few more from,
No, actually, we've got a few more.
there we go.
A few more from engineering. Or science.
They're masters.
Oh, we've got some masters. folks.
Melissa Crouch. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, entering our students from the Sustainability Program. They're represented by Director Kyle McDonald, the Terry Elkins Professor. Oh, okay. I haven't done anything for a while, but you can go.
Oh, you haven't done it?
Yeah, but I'll do
The next.
it. Okay,
Yeah. Sorry.
that's all right.
Oh, I hope.
Yeah.
This is your honor. She wants. Just hold on.
Okay. But I don't want to go.
Nar.
No? Oh, read. Oh my God.
Valeria. Valeria.
Asavaviria pool. Ari. Asavaviria pool. Okay. Lead students, Narjis Sabar. And Arif Asavaviria. Veronica Chihovska Polanco. Courtney A. Dennison. Laura Villamizar Carrillo. Andrew Fuse. Chloe Lodge. Jeremiah Lencho Bernard. Abigail Manwiller. Jonathan Elijah Hubbard Thompson. Divya Prabha Chandrasekhar. Mitali Chakraborty. Josh Young. Angela Zhu. And finally, now entering our students from the Bernard and Ann Spitzer School of Architecture. Led by Dr. Marta Gutman, Dean. Lead student Alejandro Estevez flanks the banner.
You gonna come up or you gonna stay?
Are you? Oh, you can shake hands there, or? Okay. Orinette Johnson. Berkis Beroa. Sydney Marie Mauricio. Juan Jimenez Giraldo. Paula Naomi Rodriguez Mercedes.
Alejandro Estevez.
Princess De Leon. Jaden Fabro. Fionn Lee. Henri Moraine. Onika Gregory. Maria Manukovskaya. Juan Valencia. Rustam Domolinijov. Husan Ahmed. Xavier Raymore. Noor Muhasid. Jaden Parker. Tassin Rahman. Ryan Lowe. Erija Guan. David Maximus Stinga. Evelyn Krutoy, Abram Morris, Gaston Fernandez, Evangelos Vasos, Endrit Sopa, Jacqueline Matthias Aguiar, Marim Marie, Farah Tabi, Aya Eldamadrid, Amro Ahmed, Malaika Dennis, Walaki Gray, Sarah Green, Alina Huertas, John Carlos Torres, Faith Morales, Ornella Bonhomme, Brian Hernandez, Louis Apostol, Fernanda Canadias, Gemma Cabrera, Junior Chamorro, Gildalise Torres, Jumana Janajawerla, Ruben Moana, Aman Kaur, Shamina Chowdhury, and last but not least, Yasmin Navarro.
And that concludes the roll call of our 2025 graduating class. Congratulations! And now we will hand over to Professor Janet Steele.
Will everyone please rise as the color guard of the City University Army ROTC program presents the national colors as the national anthem is sung by Tamara Valderrama with Professor Mike Holliber on the piano.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets
Will everyone please be seated? City College is pleased to welcome all of our special guests, today's graduates and their families, and our alumni. Here to welcome you and present his charge to the students is President of the City College of New York, Dr. Vince Boudreau.
Good morning, City College. I'd like to extend my greetings to the Honorable Brad Landers, who is here with us, from Trustee John Verzani from the Board of Trustees of the City University, to the City College and the CUNY administration. So let me just ask, those of you in the back, can you hear me? You can hear what I'm saying? You're not being drowned out by these calls? So let me say something. You have come from all over the world and all over this nation to see your sons and daughters graduate. And you graduates have worked for years to get to this point, and we will not let this day be taken from you. So we will proceed with this ceremony. We will address you. We will give you your day. We will honor your presence, and we will proceed with this ceremony. So I want also to thank the alumni who have come here. I'd like to pay a special greeting to the friends and family of the alumni who are here to see their sons and daughters and brothers and sisters graduate, and especially to the class of 2025 at the City College of New York, to the graduates. Congratulations on reaching this, your commencement day. We are also honored today to be presenting among the graduates a posthumous degree to Naomi Hagley. Naomi sadly passed away this last year, but her accomplishments as a student of City College, the joy she took in the time she was with us here today, merit a conferral of a posthumous degree to a Naomi. She is now and will forever be part of the City College family. I'd like to ask her family and friends who are with us today to stand up and be acknowledged. Thank you for being with us today. I'd also like to acknowledge the recent passing of Congressman Charles Rangel. He served the 13th District for more than 50 years as our congressman. He began as a freshman congressman serving on the panel of the Watergate hearings, if you can imagine that. And in his final years served this college as our statesman in residence and the founder of the Rangel Infrastructure Workforce Development Initiative. We were proud to have him in our family. He was a proud representative of our community, and we are saddened by his loss as well. So now let me address the graduates of the class. You are a remarkable spectacle arrayed in front of me, and behind you, your family, some of the older people whose encouragement and support brought you to this point, younger children who look up to you, your little brothers and sisters and cousins for whom you are carving a path forward, particularly those of you who are the first in your families to go to college. You are setting an example, not just for the young people who are with you here today, but someday the next generation or the generation to follow, 2 or 3 generations down, will point to a time in their family's history when somebody for the first time went to college, and in going to college and doing what you're doing here today, changed the entire history of your family. And so I want you for a second to sit in the historic moment that you are in right now, not just in your own life, but in the life of your family. This is the 9th time that I have stood as president before a graduating class at City College. And on virtually every occasion since I have been here, I have said to graduates, you are facing a particular challenge. Let's stop this. Let me just say that the historic work of this college, however it is being represented in these demonstrations, has nothing to do with the tragedies that are happening in the Middle East and in Gaza. Today, our graduation falls in the shadow of a federal administration that has taken aggressive steps against many, many of the things that we stand for as a community. We are one of the most diverse campuses in the United States, and diversity itself is being targeted by the federal administration. We celebrate our ability in these buildings, in the buildings to the north, to pursue research and new knowledge, and yet the federal money that is so essential to that research, and that research that is so essential to positioning the United States to be a leader, is being stripped away. We are a city, a nation, and a university that is founded on the contributions of immigrants, and yet every day today we hear stories of good Americans, new Americans, people making their way in this country, sometimes for decades, contributing to their economies, that are being shipped to distant lands, sometimes countries they've never been to before. And so today, as with the other 9 times I've addressed a graduating class at City College, you face particular challenges. And I think when you face a challenge, one of the things that's important is to identify the kind of central thesis of the challenge that faces you. And I think the central thesis that we are faced with today is that the good things that we promise one another in community, what we promise students when they come to college, what we promise our children, what we promise members of our community, justice, democracy, sustainability, security, prosperity. The thesis that we're faced with is that the quantum of these benefits is finite. And if they are finite, then it means by definition that if every one of you enjoys a bigger measure of prosperity or opportunity, it means you must be taking it from somebody else. The whole thesis that diversity, equity, and inclusion at its heart is racist is disproven every day on this campus. Because in doing what you've done, you've not split the pie, you've enlarged the pie. And now, since you're on the verge of becoming alumni, I will tell you what I tell alumni when I travel around the world. And I tell it to you so that you remember it and you tell it when you go out in the world. There are 3 realities about this campus. Number 1, we are a nation leader in producing social mobility. Number 2, we are one of the most diverse campuses in the United States. And number 3, every year we contribute $3.2 billion to the economy of the 10 counties around City College. Why is that important? That is important because we do that by helping you, every one of you, mobilize the potential, the God-given potential that is inherent in each one of you. The work of diversity, equity, inclusion, the work of this college, the work of broadening opportunity is a work of enlarging the pie, not dividing it. And so you need to remember that when you graduate. You need to take the understanding of who you are and where you came from out into the world explicitly in this moment. Explicitly when people are talking about the goods of America being finite. Every year, we know you as individuals. Your faculty does, the staff does, I do. But on this day, and when you look back on this day, you graduate from City College as a collective, as a social phenomenon that every day changes what it means to live and work and be in this country. So carry that with you, carry this day with you, carry the knowledge of what you are doing just by reaching this graduation day, by what you represent, by what you stand for, and the arguments you can make now and in the future about the idea that we are a limited country. We are not limited, you are limitless, and with you, we are all limitless. Thank you, graduates. Congratulations on reaching your commencement day. And we are now pleased to welcome our special guest, New York City Comptroller Brad Lander. He's a father, a Brooklynite, a lifelong public servant who spent his career solving New Yorkers' problems, first as an affordable housing leader, then as the City Council, now as the New York City Comptroller. Brad lives with his wife, Meg Barnett, in Brooklyn, where they raised 2 children, Mark and Rosa. Rosa will be graduating next week. He loves Prospect Park, CUNY graduation, street food, and is a proud season ticket holder for the New York Liberty, ticket holder for New York Liberty. He also had a hard stop at 12:30. He had to leave, but he looked at you and said, "I'm staying." So give him a big round of applause. City Comptroller Brad Lander.
Good afternoon. President Boudreau, City College faculty and staff, members of the CUNY board, parents and guests, it is truly an honor to address you today, and to the City College graduating class of 2025, it is even a greater honor to address you. Congratulations, we are truly in awe of you. Aileen Zuniga Marquez arrived in the United States in 2018, not speaking English fluently, and here she is as the valedictorian of one of the best colleges anywhere in the world. And to my great delight, she's accepted a Civil Service Pathways Fellowship to work with the City of New York. She's assigned to the Department of Homeless Services, where she'll use her psychology degree from City College on special initiatives in city shelters. That is, Aileen, very good work, but I do want to tell you, there's still time to choose the comptroller's office instead. And Andrew Williams, your salutatorian, was born in Queens to Jamaican immigrant parents. Maybe there's some Jamaican immigrant parents in the crowd, it sounds like. He's received just about every honor CUNY has, spent time as a research intern in Perth, Australia with a brain tumor research group, and volunteered in the emergency department at New York Presbyterian Hospital. They are both remarkable, and so are all of you. And I want to give some extra credit. I don't know if you can still use extra credit for those of you that stuck around for the speeches, but I do want to give it to you. And I'd like to get a little better sense of who you all are. So if you're able, would you please stand if you're a first-generation college graduate in your family? How about if you had to work to pay your way through college? Any of you parents who were going to class while also being parents at the same time? Like I see a few in the back. We see you. We know how hard that is. Okay, now, how many of you were born in another country? All right, stay standing. And how many of you are the children of immigrants? I thought so. That is the vast majority of the young people who are graduating today. There's a statue out in the harbor at the other end of this island that celebrates the immigrant history of this city. And despite the efforts of some politicians to demonize, to fearmonger, to deport students, now even a New York City high school student, that immigrant legacy is alive and well in the City College graduating class of 2025, the future of America, the future of New York City is a diverse, welcoming immigrant future, as Townsend Harris wrote in 1847 when he founded this place, open the doors to all. Now, it has long been true that City College students are impressive, but this class has gone through more than many who came before you. Most of you entered during COVID-19, a global pandemic that killed over 6 million people worldwide, including 50,000 New Yorkers, and isolated us in ways with no modern precedent. And you're graduating amidst a very different kind of crisis, as Donald Trump works to dismantle the framework that City College rests on, attacking higher education, attacking immigration, attacking diversity, attacking democracy. And of course, that's not an exhaustive list of the crises we face. The climate crisis looms, authoritarianism is rising all around the world. I'm guessing for some of you, like my son, the Knicks collapse in Game 1 against the Pacers is one of the crises of our time. Go Knicks, Knicks in 7, they're in the game. We won't have to have a crisis then. Professor Adam Tooze calls our moment one of polycrisis, a lot of them all at once, and it makes it all the more impressive, even than all those incredible past generations of City College students, that you persisted, that you learned in your classes, that you got involved on campus, that you showed your brilliance and creativity, and that you are graduating today. As individuals, you have shown remarkable resilience in the face of all those crises. The question I want to pose for you today is about our collective response to crisis. In her book, A Paradise Built in Hell, Rebecca Solnit identifies a series of disasters over the better part of a century that brought people together in powerful and even beautiful ways. From the 1906 San Francisco earthquake to the lower Ninth Ward after Hurricane Katrina, Solnit charts how ordinary people, faced with devastation, turned toward each other, rushed in to rescue one another. New York City experienced at least one crisis like that in your lifetime, and that was Superstorm Sandy. Many of you were young then, but some of you I see who are a little older are nodding because New Yorkers of all backgrounds sprang into action during that crisis, rushing to hard-hit neighborhoods, donating time and resources to keep their neighbors sheltered, clothed, housed, alive. I, at the time, was a first-term city council member in Brooklyn, and our community stood up a shelter in an old armory building for 500 frail elderly who had lost their homes. And over the course of those next weeks, I witnessed one example after another of New Yorkers who, instead of being consumed by the catastrophe, took heroic acts of courage and care to look out for complete strangers. Now, the crises of the past few years have definitely led to some real examples of solidarity. Mutual aid groups sprung up during the pandemic, I know, right here on campus and throughout the city. But I think there's broad agreement that the current crises we're facing are doing more to tear us apart than they are to bring us together. So the question I want to pose to you today, as you get set to graduate out into the world, is why do some crises bring us together, promote that organized compassion, and some others, like the ones of the past few years, seem to pull us apart? And I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to suggest a couple of reasons and what they mean for our shared future. And I welcome your better ideas and even more your work to change it. First, I worry that our capacity for empathy is being hacked. I've heard some people say as they watch the devastating cuts that Congress is proposing to healthcare, to food stamps, to housing, well, just wait until they go into effect. When people see how it's harming folks, they'll start to get together and oppose them. But I have to be honest, I don't know if that's true. The dizzying news cycle, economic uncertainty, social media, they steal our attention. Though we are, by some measures, more connected than ever before, the algorithms that dictate our experiences seem to drain that connection. And then in the political landscape, as autocrats have throughout history, Trump and others are trying to force us into some zero-sum, insular thinking, to be occupied only with yourself and with self-concern, and then to give you someone else to blame. Immigrants, trans folks, anyone else. Even though those folks have nothing to do with the problems we're actually facing, like rising inflation or housing prices. The author Dahlia Lithwick recently wrote, "It is not so much that most Americans are without basic empathy, but rather that we're being forced to ration it and to serve ourselves first. Our ability to see each other's full humanity is being eroded." Now, to sharpen this point, and at some risk, I want to bring in one other crisis that has marked your time in college, and we've even been hearing about it today. This one half a world away. When Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, killing over 1,200 people, and then Israel's brutal response, killing over 50,000 people, so many of them children, with hundreds of thousands now facing starvation, bombing, and mass displacement. And even though this crisis is half a world away, it has reverberated on this and many other campuses around the country. Now, I was the first Jewish elected official in New York to call for a ceasefire in Gaza, but I'm not here today to speak to you about the issue. As the protests continue to show, there are strong feelings, and of course, not everyone agrees about them. But what I want to observe is this. The brutality of war should open our hearts up to shared humanity as we witness suffering and push us to end the suffering we see. And yet, so often, war polarizes and somehow erodes our compassion rather than builds it, despite so many pictures and stories of beautiful lives stolen in Gaza. Too many people fail to see Palestinians as fully human. And yet, on the other side, rather than have his empathy increase, the individual who killed Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram outside a Jewish event in Washington, D.C. last week, utterly failed to see them as human. Crises can be, they should be, a time when empathy grows, and we have to work to make sure this is not a time when empathy shrinks. This brings me to my second hypothesis for why contemporary crises are pulling us apart rather than bringing us together. I think our ability to have dialogue across difference is also being badly eroded. Survey data shows we're increasingly politically polarized. We don't have as much opportunity to talk to debate with, to meet with people with very different ideas from us, and to figure out how to see them as fully human, even when we sharply disagree. I'm told this has even made its way to dating apps. My wife and I started dating on campus, for what it's worth, so you never know who you're sitting next to today. But City College has a proud tradition of fostering debate. I even saw a movie once called Arguing the World about City College alums in the 1930s who, between Alcove 1 and Alcove 2, had some of the fiercest debates, and yet they went on to lead this city because they sharpened their thinking, they learned how to debate and disagree, to still understand the people in the other alcove were folks that they should dialogue and debate with. And yet, broadly, that capacity is being badly eroded. And this brings me to my third and final point. Right now, we lack institutions with enough trust to unify us to take on the big challenges that we're facing. Survey after survey shows it, from the federal government to the news media, to higher education, to unions, even to scientific and religious organizations. Historically respected institutions are losing people's confidence. And this means when those crises hit, people are more likely to blame institutions rather than mobilize around them as spaces for building shared response. And the cycle is one of recrimination rather than solidarity. But now look, many of our institutions have serious flaws, to be sure. But I believe they're worth fighting for, worth working to make better, and so do most Americans. More than 8 in 10 say that confidence in government, confidence in institutions can be increased by focusing on increased transparency, by trying to have leaders who lead with integrity, by engaging and building community. That is what I have tried to do in my career as New York City Controller. That's New York City's Chief Accountability Officer, where I get to work with 700 public servants to make our city more transparent, try to make government more honest, more responsive to the needs of New Yorkers. There is still time, Island and Andrew. Look, you know we face big challenges. You feel it every day. But here's the good news. You, the City College graduating class of 2025, you represent powerful answers to every single one of those challenges. On the erosion of empathy, your stories are such powerful examples of human connection and perseverance against the hardest challenges of our time. I urge you to go out in the world and find ways to share those stories so other people get to know who you are and can be as proud of you as your parents are. It will make a difference. On our broken channels of communication, in your time on this campus, you've engaged in a great deal of dialogue and debate. That spirit of arguing the world, I know it's alive and well right here at City College. Keep it alive and well as you move out into the world. And finally, with respect to institutions, you are graduating from an institution in a city that is undoubtedly worthy of unifying around. City College, the flagship of the City University of New York, the most powerful vehicle of social uplift and mobility and collective progress in New York City, one of the most diverse and greatest cities on the planet. I think today it is plain for all to see that your individual resilience, your personal struggles and triumphs, your brilliance and creativity, your courage and care for each other and your families and your communities, they can add up to a powerful collective response to not only the crises that we have faced in the past, but to the many challenges that you will face in the future. I can't wait to see you do it, whichever department you work in. Thank you and congratulations to the City College graduating class of 2025, and good luck in everything you do.
Thank you, Mr. Lander. Now, trustee of the City University of New York, John Verzani, will bring greetings to the 2025 graduating class. Trustee Verzani.
Good morning, President Boudreau, distinguished faculty, guests, families, friends, and most importantly, the City College of New York's graduating class of 2025. As the faculty trustee, it is my great honor to be here today on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the City University of New York to give brief remarks. Class of 2025, we are here today to celebrate a significant milestone in your lives, the culmination of years of hard work, dedication, and perseverance. This moment is a testament to your resilience, strength, and continued commitment to your education. You are the pride of CUNY and the pride of New York. The trustees are enormously proud of the class of 2025. We expect great things from each of you and will be rooting for your success. I have no doubt that you have the talent and passion to change the world for the better. After all, you are CUNY graduates. Best of luck, class of 2025.
The salutatory address will now be given by Andrew Williams, salutatorian of the class of 2025.
Good afternoon to the class of 2025. Good afternoon to President Boudreau, the Office of the Provost, all the faculty, honored guests, and all the families and friends of this remarkable graduating class. It is truly an immense honor to stand before you today as the salutatorian of this amazing class. Before I begin, I would first like to thank God
but without him, I would not be here standing before you all today. I'd also like to say a very special thank you to my family sitting right over there. Love you guys. And finally, a very special thank you to all my friends and mentors, Jamie, Y, Will, Dr. Stark, Dr. Malara, who have truly helped to guide me over the course of my last 4 years here at the City College of New York. So, as I thought about what I wanted to discuss with you all today, I was somewhat coincidentally watching an anime, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, called Solo Leveling. And it is essentially about a character who can ceaselessly level up in power and defeat enemies who are incredibly strong. While watching, I thought about how amazing it would be if we all just had a floating screen, just like the protagonist does in the show, which would allow us to upgrade ourselves. And then it dawned on me, in a sense, we truly do. Education is actually our way of leveling up. As the child of As a child of Jamaican immigrants, my parents ensured while growing up that I was fully aware of all the trials they endured simply to get an education. My mother, growing up in the rural hills of St. Elizabeth, Jamaica, where sugarcane swayed in the distance, where the roads were nothing more than dusty trails carved by generations of determined footsteps, she walked. She walked 7 miles every day, each step fueled not by luxury, but by necessity. That same belief carried her across an ocean where for over 25 years, she has stood in front of a classroom in New York City, shaping young minds, reminding me that knowledge is the one thing, the one possession that cannot be stolen, cannot be diminished, and cannot be erased. Yet, even within these halls of higher learning, I've seen how intellect is too often measured against prejudice. You're smart for a black guy, a peer once told me. A statement meant to praise but laced with microaggression. A reminder that the road to equality is still unfinished. But education, true transformative education, is the great liberator. As the legendary B.B. King once said, the beautiful thing about education is that no one can take it away from you. And so now as we stand at a crossroads, what will we do with this education? Will we allow it to sit idly as a symbol of achievement, or will we wield it as a tool to dismantle barriers, to challenge injustice, to innovate and lead? Knowledge alone is not enough. It is the action we take with it that defines us. Class of 2025, let us be disruptors, let us be visionaries, and let us be change makers. Let our education be the fire that fuels transformation. Thank you.
The valedictory address will now be given by Eileen Zuniga Marquez, valedictorian of the class of 2025.
Good afternoon, fellow graduates, family, friends, staff, faculty members, and honored guests. First, I would like to congratulate the class of 2025. We have made it. We did that. We have achieved an incredible milestone today, with resistance written all over it. When I moved to New York City in 2018 from El Salvador, I landed with an album of family photos and a broken heart. I left everything dear and loved to me behind: my grandmother, my family, friends, and all that I ever knew. I had no choice but to accept my new reality. This reality included navigating a world I was a stranger in, an outsider, starting with one of its most important components, language. Being here as a teenager felt like I was stripped of everything, and I was being punished for being born in a different country. Later, I realized that I belonged here too. But even with a broken heart, I knew one thing. I needed to finish high school and go to college, whatever that looked like here. And so I did. That's how I became a student at CCNY. I know many of you share my story, and I also know that many of us here are first-generation graduates who have defied the odds. Give yourself a round of applause for that. You did that. We know they do not expect us to be here, to be educated. But we are here, and we're not going anywhere because we are part of this country too. Our college experience has been unique, one of resistance and resilience. We often had to juggle school, multiple jobs, family, friends, and the long and draining commute for most of us. And although there were times when attending that 8 p.m. class in the NAC building where the escalators and elevators rarely worked, making the building inaccessible for people with mobility disabilities felt like all the effort was not worth it, but we still showed up. We showed up for ourselves every single time we decided that getting this education, getting this degree was more important than our comfort. I commend our class of 2025. Because the barriers we faced to be here today are comedic. It was as if we were part of a game, but we were never given the instructions on how to play, even though we were required to compete at the same level as those with more advantages. But we still showed up, and we completed the game. Showing up is a form of resistance, and God knows we have done that. From our fellow students protesting for Palestine who exercised their right to protest and were met with a violent response from campus security officers, to those who thought they didn't have the strength to keep going and finish one more semester. This class embodies what it means to show up, to resist the systems that are designed to benefit the few and oppress the rest, us. We went against a predetermined future, rolled the dice, and put ourselves first, ignoring the noise that said, "You won't make it. College is not meant for people like you." What are people like us anyway? What I know is this: the attacks on immigrants, especially our Latina community right now, are signs of fragility, racism, and fear that we are becoming leaders and shaping our own futures. That we're not what they say we are. That is what we're doing here today. We are resisting with every step that we take to make our people proud. Maya Angelou reminds us, when you walk into an office, you don't go alone. Bring your people with you. Bring everybody that has loved you with you. That is why I can stand before you all today. My people surround me. My mother is here next to me, even though she's sitting right beside you. My grandmother is here with me, even though she is in El Salvador. I would like to thank my family who are watching this live stream. Hola. The SIC program, especially Dr. Sinead Samberket, my mentor. The psychology department, Dr. Robert Melara. And the Colin Powell School Office of Student Success for their unwavering support throughout this uncertain journey. Now, I will honor my family by sharing the following message in the language they can understand. Muchas gracias a mi mami Daisy y a mi familia por darme la oportunidad de estar acá. Yo soy quien soy porque vengo de ustedes. Y es que yo siempre he estado muy orgullosa de ser salvadoreña. Y es por la influencia de mi familia. Y es que son personas de bien, humildes, trabajadoras como nadie. Que me criaron para ser quien yo quiera ser. Ustedes me dieron el coraje para pararme donde sea y cuando sea, con amor y orgullo. Infinitas gracias, familia Márquez Guevara. I want all of you to take a moment to think of an advisor, mentor, classmate, family member, or a person who supported you throughout your college journey and say, thank you for seeing me and my efforts. As we leave CCNY, I want us to remember this. We show up authentically by sharing our cultures, stories, and ourselves, which is precisely why we're here today. We have earned this. James Baldwin once wrote, "Take no one's word for anything, including mine, but trust your experience. Know whence you came. If you know whence you came, there is really no limit to where you can go. Fortunately, we know where we come from. Therefore, we have no limit to pursuing and achieving our wildest dreams." Please don't forget, we are this country's past, present, and future. We are not going anywhere. May you always stand in your truth and fight for it with conviction. Congratulations, class of 2025. Thank you.
President Boudreau, candidates for degrees in coursework will now be presented to you by Provost Tony List. Provost List.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are in the home stretch. I'm going to invite your classmates who are your representatives to stand by me at the podium. Ilya Chowdhury, President of the Undergraduate Student Government. Bianca Jones, Graduate Student Council Executive Chair. Sonia Utup, Graduate Student Council Executive Vice Chair Valedictorian. Aileen Suniga Marquez and Andrew Williams, Valedictorian and Salutatorian. Please come stand by me. Candidates for undergraduate degrees, please rise. Candidates for graduate degrees, please rise. President Boudreau, on behalf of the deans of the City College of New York, I present to you all of the candidates for undergraduate degrees and graduate degrees from the City College of New York.
You don't know this, but until this moment, you're not graduated yet. This is it, right here. Tell the people that left, they still got to come back for this. By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the City University of New York, I hereby confer your degrees upon you with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereto appertaining. Please move your tassels to the left side of your hat, and we welcome you to the company of scholars. You are graduates.
Andrew, congratulations. Leah, congratulations.
David?
Hello, everybody. Please remain standing. I'm Larry Greengrass, president of the Alumni Association, which since 1853, which is long before at least most of us on the panel were born, has promoted the interests of the college, the students, and its alumni. And I'm very proud to award to our two distinguished graduates, Eileen and Andrew, these medals. And David? And I will read and you will repeat after me the Ephebic Oath, which is a long-standing tradition at City College. Okay, we men and women graduating from the City College of New York do this day, after the manner of the Athenian youths of old about to enter public life, take this oath of devotion to the City of New York. We will never bring disgrace to our city by any act of dishonesty or cowardice. Nor ever desert our suffering comrades in the ranks. We will fight for the ideals and sacred things of the city, both alone and with many. We will revere and obey the city's laws and do our best to incite a like respect and reverence in those about us who are prone to annul them and set them at naught. We will strive unceasingly to quicken the public sense of civic duty. And thus, in all these ways, we will strive to transmit this city, and not only not less, but greater, better, and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us. Congratulations to all of you.
Please rise again as Shayla Woods sings the college's alma mater, Lavender, My Lavender. She will be accompanied by Professor Mike Holliber. The words to the alma mater can be found on the back cover of the program. We ask that guests and graduates stay in place until the platform party has left the area.
Sturdy sons of City College, trusty hearts and mighty hands, rally where your streaming banner with its dauntless emblem stands. Send a cheer to heaven ringing, filled with love and fond acclaim. Faith and pride in alma mater enter, never dying fame. Lavender, my lavender, lavender, my lavender, on the fields of life's endeavor, bound by ties that naught can sever. Hail, we alma mater ever. Lavender, my lavender. Daughters fair of City College, we are wise and we are strong. We will bring you pride and glory with our lives' unending song. All will join us in our singing songs of love and fond acclaim. Faith and pride in alma mater and her never dying fame. Lavender, my lavender, lavender, my lavender, on the fields of life's endeavor, bound by ties that naught can sever. Hail, we alma mater ever. Lavender, my lavender, lavender, my lavender.
To the graduating class, the 2025 class of City College of New York, congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until the platform party exits.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York, these vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York, New York, I want to wake up in a city that doesn't sleep.
Thank you so much for joining us today. For all of you wanting to take pictures, please remember that North Campus is available to do that. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And finally, once more, congratulations, class of 2025. You did the thing.
I'll make a brand new start of it in old New York if I can